if any of you were in our misinformation session this morning and you know about the rise in fake news, misinformation, and disinformation, these things are crucial. It's vital to put data at the heart of evidence-based policymaking. Paris 21, I mean, I'll just very quickly speak about the work that we do. We've been supporting countries, many different countries around the world in terms of strengthening this relationship. One initiative that we were especially proud to have supported was the Trust Initiative, which was a program to provide microloans to small organizations and NSOs around the world who are doing really innovative, cutting-edge, exciting things to strengthen trust. And our colleagues from Vanuatu, who are here with us online today, did an especially nice campaign where they produced a video featuring some famous comedians to teach people about the important role of data in society. So if you have the chance, please look that up online. So we'll focus on developments in lower middle income countries and countries around the world in terms of NSO engagement with parliamentarians. And I have a very distinguished panel with me today that I'm pleased to introduce. First, we have Her Excellency Undram Chinbat, who's a member of Parliament of Mongolia and a member of the Standing Committee on Economics of the Parliament, who's here with us today. Welcome. I have also Mr. Batmunk Batava, who's the chairperson of the National Statistical Office of Mongolia. Online, I have Mr. Raymond Manuake, who's a clerk of the Parliament of Vanuatu. He's also with us online. And Mr. Hugo Pigot, who's a representative of the Vanuatu National Statistical Offices, who's here with us online. Last but not least, we have our dear friend Yusuf Murangwa, who's the Director General of the National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda, who will provide closing remarks. So with that, let's get started. We'll have a bit of a discussion with the panelists. I think we'll first hear from our friends in Mongolia and then Vanuatu, and then we'll have an opportunity to have some Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, please don't be shy, and we'll have those at the end before Yusuf gives his closing remarks. So Her Excellency, I'll start with you. Given your work as a member of the Parliament and a member of the Standing Committee on Economics, could you please share with us a little bit about the importance of data for your work and about the efforts that there are in the Parliament of Mongolia to increase its use?
Hello, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here in this forum. And, well, I'm a new member of Parliament, which was elected in 2020. And prior to this job, I used to work in the academic sector for National University of Mongolia. And right now, our country governance, we have a parliament, which is a lawmaker, and we have government, which is executive body, and judiciary. So the parliament appoints head of the National Statistical Bureau. And I think, first of all, I should point out that it's very important for the statistical office to be independent body from the government so that we can get reliable and accurate data. And also for the parliament, it's very important to have this independent statistical office to monitor and also enforce the government to do their job on a reliable, based on the reliable, timely data. So, and recently I think that the parliament, the usage of statistical data became more frequent, and we are also trying to get data, on timely basis, much more, especially after COVID, because during COVID we really needed to have on-time data to make quick decisions. Even the parliament had to work very fast to set up new laws related to COVID and etc. So, and on top of events like COVID, the use of technology and the change of society is also requiring fast decision making even from the parliament. So data is becoming more frequently used, and also more parliamentarians also using statistics more and more each day, I think.
Thank you very much, Excellency. No, I think these are excellent points that you brought up. I think the importance of statistical office independence is so crucial. And I think it's one of the things that I've been hearing again and again throughout this event is that the way we build trust between the different NSS actors in society has such a large role to play. So I'd be interested to hear a little bit later on about how specifically you've helped to build that trust, strengthen communication between Parliament and the NSO. Given that independence and given the important functions of each in society. So if we can come back to that in a few minutes. But first, I want to turn to Mr. Batava. We know there's a lot of demand for data and interest in the work of the Statistical Office, as shared by Excellency Chinbat. So from your side, from the NSO side, how have you strengthened your collaboration with Parliament, and why do you think it's so important to do so?
Okay. Thank you very much, Sasha, for enabling Mongolia to participate this panel to share our experience. For this panel, actually, we have prepared a brief presentation to share with our colleagues about our experience in strengthening the cooperation between the NSO and the Parliament. If you could share the presentation, then I could just briefly explain this. The works we have done so far. And also, I would like to thank Her Excellency Ms. Ondram Chinbat, the Member of Parliament, to be able to participate in this event because, having your boss at this important event is very important for your job, right? So we are really happy for Paris 21 for organizing this event. So here, we would like to introduce some of the works we have done uh, regarding the cooperation with our data users, one of which is the Parliament of Mongolia. So basically,
Okay. I have to click it. Yeah.
So slide is okay. So basically, in 2021, we found that we are facing increasing challenge from the new data sources. For example, with the advent of the digital technology, there's been people where individuals and the institutions were able to capture and create new data and make conclusions from these data, which sometimes conflict with the results of the official statistics, though their representativeness and quality is not always ensured. So to increase the dissemination, effectiveness of the dissemination of the official statistics, we've come up with a new communication strategy with our data users. So this communication strategy was based on actually the handbook on the management of the official statistics, which was issued by the UNST, and also the strategic communication framework for statistical institutions, which was issued by the UNEC. So in these two documents, you could see like the best practices recommended for the National Statistical Offices to improve the communications with the data users. So based on this documentation, actually, we did a stakeholder analysis matrix for our data users. So basically, we divided our data users into two main groups, institutional and individuals. So on institutional users, one of the primary users, data users are Parliament of Mongolia. And for each institutional users and users, we did conduct a persona analysis for the people working there in terms of their capacity, skills in the use of the data. And as for the Parliament of Mongolia, we've identified that there are two main types of the data users. The first one is the lawmakers, and second one is the staff of the lawmakers. And data need is slightly different. For example, the staff of the Parliament, their main function is to facilitate the effective functioning of the Parliament of Mongolia and provide the necessary information to the members of Parliament to help with them to the legislation. But as for the members of the Parliament, besides the legislation, their main focus is to oversee the work of the government, to see how the work of the government is being conducted, whether they are in line with the strategy of long-term strategy of Mongolia, whether they are in line with the relevant legislations, whether the work is effective or not. And also, for the members of the parliament, another main focus of them is the data of the constituencies, the voters. So we've, based on this stakeholder analysis, we've come up with several new initiatives. So firstly, as part of the overall our strategy to increase the use of the data, we have renewed our statistical information system, which is a web-based system. So here we actually introduced user-friendly UI and UX with the smart search engine, which is similar to Bloomberg terminal search engine, where you can find the key data with the keywords. So here, any data user could type the keywords to find the data easily. So that was one of the things we've done to increase the data usage in the country. Secondly, we've introduced a series of trainings for the staff of the parliament. So these training programs include, for example, methodological training. For example, we do a training about the sampling and also CPI, calculation of the GDP, and etc., to help the staff of the parliament to understand the basics about statistics, because most of the staff working at the parliament, their background is in a law, they are in law major. So this was, we think, it was important for them to, provide this kind of training. And thirdly, we started to disseminate statistical bulletin through the Viber, email, and Telegram channels directly to the members of the parliament on top of the printed bulletin. And we think it's an effective way because most of the time the members of the parliament are very busy. So during the travel time, during the parliament sessions, they can see the access to the data through these channels and ask specific questions from our staff on specific topics. So it's kind of interactive channels open directly for the members of the parliament. Next item we did during the COVID was, during the COVID, the demand for high frequency data has increased. So we started to estimate the inflation on a weekly basis during the COVID. And we also started to estimate the trade data on a bi-weekly basis. And also we started to estimate GDP on a monthly basis. And we did a summary of weekly statistics and disseminated it to the members of parliament and also the ministers of the government through these channels. So this is to help them with, make a timely decisions with regard to the changing COVID situations in the country. And another important thing that we have also started to do with the parliament is we agreed to hold semi-annual statistical updates with the members of the parliament. So like every start of the spring and autumn sessions of the parliament, we go to the Parliament House and make a presentation on the latest update on the socio-economic status of the country directly to the members of the Parliament. And during these sessions, members of Parliament can ask specific questions about the data and statistics and the underlying change in etc. So this is to help the members of Parliament to understand more about the current situation of the country. And another thing which we did, which is also kind of could be interesting to other countries, is we have a deliberative law on deliberative poll. So this deliberative poll is about to help with the decision maker about to identify the sentiment and needs of the constituencies on certain subject matters. And we did conduct a national deliberative poll together with the Parliament of Mongolia this last February. about amendments to the constitution. So we did, NSO did help to do the sampling, data collection on this subject matter. So this kind of helped us to work, increase the cooperation with the Parliament of Mongolia. And we have also several planned activities with the Parliament of Mongolia. Two of them are with support from the Paris 21. The first one is the data boot camp to be held in June this year. So this boot camp is directed towards training parliament journalists and also the staff of the parliament to help them understand the data and statistics. And also we are planning to hold a half-a-day session for the members of the parliament about we will update them with the latest statistical updates, and also we will try to explain with them like the challenges that's been faced by the NSO in Mongolia about further, develop the national statistical system. And second work we are doing in cooperation with the Parliament of Mongolia with support from the Paris 21 is we are currently working on the amendment to the law on statistics with the specific focus on the governance of the national statistics system and also the data integration, specifically the microdata integration, admin data integration on this part. So for this, Paris 21 has provided us with technical assistance on national consultants, and we are planning to finalize with this task within the September this year, and we will ask the members of the parliament to submit the draft legislation to the parliament to get it discussed by the parliament this year. And another important cooperation at the moment we are doing with the parliament is actually by law, every year NSO has to report to the parliament about do the reporting on the annual results, annual work activities done by the NSO. And during these reports, actually the members of the Economic Standing Committee has asked NSO to conduct impact analysis on the major legislations that's been passed by the parliament, namely taxation law, because the taxation law was completely renewed back in 2019, and also the labor law, which was introduced, new labor law was introduced in 2020, and also the taxation on the livestock. So Parliament wants to measure and know the impact of this law on the economy and the society. So, but the issue we had was we don't have the research capacity in the NSO. So, but we have data. So currently we are working with the universities in Mongolia and providing with them with the data, and they are providing us with the expertise to do this analysis on the impact of the legislations. And we are planning to submit the results within this year. I think what the parliament is currently asking NSO is they want us to provide data and research on before making any legislation, and also they want us to do impact analysis after making legislation. So I think in terms of legislation, this is the important contribution we could do from the NSO side for this part. So, and another thing I wanted to share with you is since year 2021, Parliament has tasked us with the project to do a national data integration project in Mongolia. So it's a project about integrating the administrative data and building up data governance nationally. So in the last 2 years, with the request from the parliament, we've been working on this project, and currently we have ADB and COSTAT in line with us to provide with us technical and financial support to complete this project. So once this project starts to be implemented, we hope that we can provide the data users, especially the Parliament, more timely and granular data on a timely basis. So that's all I wanted to share, Sasha. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you so much. I mean, so many really useful and interesting ideas and the inspirational ideas that the NSO and Parliament of Mongolia are doing. I mean, maybe just to pick up on one thing I think is especially important is that, starting from an assessment of user needs and of what the Parliament's needs are, what their capacity is, of course, is I think so important because, we can't all assume that the level of statistical literacy and in terms of the types of data that the Parliament needs and the way they want to consume that data, we know those things. So I think to start with an assessment is extremely useful. So maybe we can very quickly, I mean, I want to turn to Vanuatu, but Excellency Chinbat, maybe we can just very quickly take a step back and look at the big picture. I mean, as you mentioned, you were working in the university beforehand, and I'm curious to know, in Mongolia, how has data, the role of data, changed in society since you were in academia and, over the past few years?
Well, I do think it has changed a lot in a good way. Back when I was working at the university, of course, data was used for research purposes, and looking from the university, side to the government, politicians, parliamentarians, they didn't. I felt like they didn't use a lot of statistical data when they're, making decisions or speaking to the public, etc. But now that, since 2020, and on the other side, I do feel recently the parliamentarians and politicians, first of all, they became very young. They became younger, and plus a lot of professionals entered parliament, and the use of statistics became more frequent, I think. And also the government is trying to, especially the Economic Standing Committee, is trying to work closer with the National Statistical Bureau so that they can evaluate and monitor government if they're doing a good job or not. And we also had difficult past 2-3 years, so it was very important for us to have reliable data, timely one as well.
Thank you so much. No, I mean, that's fascinating. I mean, they're talking about the generational shift and also the shift in professionalism, I think is really critical. And I think you both also spoke about COVID as being a kind of catalyst for change as well, which we've seen, across the board in many, many countries. So I think that's a really important aspect. So thank you both very much. So I want to turn now to our colleagues in Vanuatu. Maybe Mr. Manuake, if I can start with you. I hope colleagues at the back, we can get them on the screen. So I want to start with Mr. Manuake, who is the clerk of the Parliament of Vanuatu. So, similar line of questioning. We want to know a little bit more about how the Parliament is supporting the use of data. And maybe you can talk a little bit about the practices that you're using and what your expected outcomes would be. Over to you. Please go ahead. We don't actually hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, let me first of all begin by thanking Vanuatu Secretariat for extending the invitation to the Parliament of the Republic of Vanuatu to participate in this event, engaging parliamentarians in development data. And also, we wish to acknowledge the government of the People's Republic of China for hosting this important event, the forum. Let me start by saying that we have, with the assistance of Paris 21 Secretariat, the Vanuatu National Statistics Office and the Vanuatu Parliament are embarking on a project on the use of trusted data. The aim of this project is to assist our members of Parliament to acquaint themselves on how best they can utilize the data collected by government agencies when performing their core functions as elected representatives and legislators. As the Vanuatu government handles greater volumes of data and respond to increasingly complex technological regulation and global development challenges, it becomes essential that the Vanuatu Parliament enters into agreement with government agencies to put in place appropriate structures and mechanisms which will assist our leaders to promote the responsible and efficient use of this data. Equally important is the capacity of our members of Parliament to effectively use, reuse, and share the data collected when performing their core functions as elected representatives, legislators, and for their scrutiny functions as members of the Parliamentary Standing Committees. And we currently have a new legislature, the 13th legislature, elected on the 13th of October 2023, last year. And we will be running a 3-day induction program before the upcoming opening of the upcoming first ordinary session of Parliament for this year. And the Vanuatu Parliament is working very closely with the National Statistics Office to also encourage our leaders to foster a data-driven culture while interacting with all the sectors, such as private sector, the academia, and the civil society, while on the other hand, also respecting human rights and ensuring that the data management practices are inclusive, transparent, and adhere to ethical norms. Such an approach will help to build trust, support cross-sectoral collaboration, and ultimately lead to more effective and accountable data governance. I believe that once our members of Parliament are trained to understand the use of data collected by government agencies, they will be able to set priorities and make informed decisions for the common good. I take pride in announcing that staff of the Vanuatu Parliament are learning a lot of new things in terms of data usage under this partnership between Vanuatu National Statistics Office. It is our wish that Parliament of Vanuatu will continue to nurture this partnership and with the support of Paris 21. And I would like to also share with you that we have 4 standing committees. The Standing Committee on Economics, which requires a lot of data to understand the data collected and also to make meaningful decisions on and report back to Parliament. We also have the Social Committee and the Public Accounts Committee, and the 4th one is the Committee on Institutional and Constitutional Affairs. And we are thankful that through Paris 21 assistance, the National Statistics Office can partner with us and strengthen the use of trusted data collected by government agencies for our staff, but also for our parliamentarians to use. If we can continue on with this partnership, it will boost the performance of our staff and also our leaders in terms of representative of the people in. Thank you again for allowing me time to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. No, I mean, I think there's, again, some commonalities with what Mongolia is experiencing, and I think I like especially what you talked about, the rapidly changing role of technology and how governments have to adapt and, to learn, this forces a little bit the discussion on data, and also, how you spoke about capacity development and about the role of partnerships in helping to build that capacity. I think that's something that certainly, we believe in, and we think that events like this are so important to share knowledge with one another and to learn from our peers and to exchange. And I think that's so critical in this respect. So thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Pigott, if I can turn to you, let's talk a little bit about, again, the Vanuatu NSO. Hello? If we can talk a little bit about the Vanuatu NSO. I mean, I know you've been doing a lot of work to promote the use of data in Parliament and supporting parliamentarians. So maybe you could speak a little bit about your lessons learned in terms of developing data and mobilizing support for that.
Perfect. Thank you. Afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Sasha, for the introduction. My name's Hugo Piggott, and I work as an advisor for the Statistics Office, and I've been part of a team that's helped coordinate this program with support from Paris 21, a collaboration between the Statistics Office and Parliament. I just want to give a quick introduction to two colleagues, Vanuatu and Mongolia, and also Ben Tokel, who are part of the coordination team too. In terms of lesson learned, we have quite a few. I think we'd probably start off with, which I feel would be one of the most important, is the level of engagement which is needed to make something like this successful. Often when we develop these sort of programs, we budget a number of activities, and these are sort of formalized engagements such as workshops, training sessions, briefings. But I think there's a huge amount of background, informal conversations and engagements which have to happen, especially at the start of any program, and especially with Parliament, I felt, to get everyone on board, to develop that buy-in, and to really get a good start to carry you through the rest of the program. And I think this sort of engagement at the start allowed us to identify champions within Parliament. I think we've been lucky that parliamentary staff and the MPs have been fantastic throughout the whole program. But I would say, and not just because the clerk is on the call, but Clark has been an absolute champion for this program. And it makes a huge difference to have the head of the organization with staff and someone that interacts with the PM and the deputy PMs and all the MPs on a regular basis, championing this project, and always open and available to discuss anything. So I think having that sort of initial engagement and engagement throughout the project has really helped with its success. I think touching on a point that has been brought up previously, and Sasha, you brought up too, was this idea of we conducted a number of assessments at the start, both qualitative and quantitative. And conducting the assessments really allowed us to target specific activities to add value to responsibilities within Parliament that align to official statistics. And I think for this program, we had two components really, or two major components. We have different arms sort of communication, but the two major components were to build the capacity of parliamentary civil servants, and then also to build the capacity of MPs. The MPs was a focus on constituency profiles developed from census data, and the parliamentary civil servants was to use official statistics to develop evidence-based policy, evidence-based policy recommendations aligned to the highest policy framework in the country, National Sustainable Development Plan. Now, I think these two components, I think, have worked very well, but I think for our next phase, I think what is key is to try and institutionalize a system. So we've built capacity of specific groups, but I think really for it to be sustainable, we have to look at sort of organizational structures and not just at maybe individual capacity levels. Something, just as an example, is that all ministries have to send to Parliament an annual report, which helps Parliament give oversight to how the achievements of the ministry. And at the moment in Vanuatu, as a country, we are struggling with producing these annual reports, which are submitted to Parliament. So I think for the next phase, we've had discussions with Parliament and with other stakeholders, the idea being that we would help develop a template for ministries. Then we would help guide them to include official statistics within these annual reports, which would then be fed into Parliament. And then Parliament can use these annual reports to give oversight and recommendations to improve the ministries. I think it's this sort of level of institutionalization and development of a system and improving on what's already in place. I think that really is key to the sustainability of these sorts of programs. I think something else that's probably came out of the of our engagement is adding value to what's already happening within Parliament. And that came from the assessments and really targeting the trainings. And I think from this, what has actually been created is a demand for our services, which we are starting to see. And again, that ties into the sustainability aspect of this project. I mean, if it's always up to the NSO to approach stakeholders and say, please use data for evidence-based decision making, it's probably not very sustainable. And so what we really want is stakeholders to approach us for our services. And I think we're starting to see examples of that from this program. The clerk had touched on it earlier, but we were recently invited to present to the Committee for Social Affairs on the cost of living. And that was a great discussion. We've been invited by the clerk's office to present to all MPs on this program and official statistics. And that's the first time that's happening. So I think we're starting to see some sort of real great sort of impacts of this program. And a lot of it comes down to sort of targeting to improve what's already happening. And then from that, a demand for our services and for statistics is coming from it. And then I think just to finish off, I think it's often very small things which are not necessarily tangible that we sort of cater for at the beginning of every project. But I mean, the trainings we've done with civil servants and to make them fun, to make them interactive. I mean, I think we probably do about an hour or so of engagement or presentations, and then we have a game. And then we go back and then we start to work again. And I think even very small things which should never be underestimated, providing a very good lunch. And it's these little things often which really sort of resonate with individuals. And I think we've seen evidence of this because we've had high levels of engagement and attendance throughout all our sessions, and I think we've held, I think, in a region of about 20 or 30 training sessions now with parliamentary staff. So that's over a period. That's quite a large commitment from parliamentary staff, and we've had close to sort of 20 staff continually come. So often it's little things also that sometimes we overlook. I think a final thing would be that, and this just isn't just from Parliament's perspective, but also for government, is we have to be flexible with time. I think Parliament are extremely busy. They represent the highest level of decision making in the country, and we often state within the programme that we are here to serve Parliament's needs. So I think it's also just to have that level of flexibility. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Hugo. Again, I mean, so many interesting and important things to pick up on, and I can certainly attest to the importance of having giveaways or good lunches. I used to do a lot of work in the British Parliament, and I can tell you, I mean, there was no better attended event than one where you had a little toy that you could give to the MPs or give them a really nice lunch. So they always loved that. So absolutely. No, but I mean, I think seriously, your points about sustainability, you know, of course, we don't want these interventions to be short-lived. We want these to become institutionalized. And I think, you know, our colleagues in Mongolia talking about the impact assessments, you talking about demand creation are such important aspects, and to ensure that, you know, that parliamentarians understand the value of the work that the NSO does and of the products that you put out. And the more you can tailor those products to the actual needs of your constituents, I think the better shape you'll be. So thanks very much. I'm just conscious of the time, and I do want to give some opportunity to all of you to ask some questions. So if anyone has a question, please feel free to raise your hand and we'll get a microphone to you. Don't be shy. Good. Okay. Well, then, if you're all being shy for the moment, then I'll ask a question. I have so many questions to ask to all of our panelists. Maybe I'll start with Vanuatu, though, if we can get them up on the screen. From either one of you, really, you know, this issue of trust and about, you know, at the starting point. I mean, you talked about identifying champions within the Parliament to work with. I mean, how do you initially, build that trust, especially where there may have been a significant disconnect between the work of the NSO and the Parliament? What's your starting point? How do you help to inculcate a sense of the value of the work that you do with the Parliament? So maybe Clark, if you'd like to answer that question, or Hugo, feel free. Oh, I think we just, sorry, I think we can't hear you. I'm not sure at the back if that's a problem here or if you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Well, thank you. We did discuss this with Hugo to identify the champions. So we tend to evenly distribute the 6 champions, because we have 6 provinces, and we decided to nominate our champions from each province, so that they can be the ones who will be taking the leading roles in this program of trusted data users. So they have been very keen on the constituency profiles that the NSO has printed out, and they are very keen in participating in our upcoming induction program, when the NSO will be also making a presentation. But yeah, we try to be inclusive, and now we have, since so many years, we have a female elected, so we have a voice in there. So we will have more, and also people, MPs with disability, we have included them as champions as well. Hugo, do you want to add anything?
I think I'll probably, thank you, Clark. I think just to add, I'd probably just go back to sort of reiterate what I previously mentioned. It's key in terms of building trust. Everyone has a workload. Everyone has so many things to do. It's key to add value to whoever you're working with, and to focus on potentially improving quality rather than increasing workload. And so if we can add value, I think this is where we really get the trust. There's a large amount of engagement that is required, but I think adding value to partners and to beneficiaries is where you really get that buy-in and that trust. Thank you.
Thanks very much to both of you. Maybe Batava, if I can ask a quick question of you then. You spoke about this impact analysis, and I think that's a really important element that you raised. Maybe you can unpack that a little bit more and talk about how that's been used, how Parliament's been using that, and what you have seen the impact of that as being in terms of supporting the case for statistics in Parliament.
So I think, close cooperation with the Parliament is very important in a way that the members of the Parliament can understand the work of the statistics more, because I have a central banking background. I've been working at the central bank for almost over 15 years. And when I moved to the National Statistical Office, during my appointment, what the members of Parliament was asking is that for any good decision-making, the evidence-based decision-making, the visibility and proactivity of the statistical office is very important. We have to provide them with the good data. And what the Parliament has asked us is that you have to be like organization in the country, not like sitting behind and waiting for the policy institutions to make decisions. So I think in the long term, what we are feeling at the moment is members of Parliament and Parliament understands more about the capacity of the NSO at the moment, and more resources are being asked to allocate to the NSO because we were quite under budgeted. I think it's similar in the other countries. So members of the parliament start to understand the importance of the NSO, limitations of the NSO. So I think in terms of the resource allocation, it's really important to be active in this area. And as for the parliament, the data we provide is for the good of the country, right? So for legislation impact analysis, it's really important. So I mentioned this data integration project because currently we have integrated several government administrative databases to be able to conduct the impact analysis on those major legislations that Parliament has passed in the last few years. So it's very important for the Parliament to see impact of those laws and whether they are increasing the competitiveness of the country with relative to the other major competitors of our economy, etc. So I think it's a mutually beneficial, and it's beneficial for the whole of the country.
Thank you very much. Maybe I can do, sorry, yeah, we have one question here at the front. If we can get a microphone up at the front. We have two questions, thanks to audience members. I think yeah.
Thank you so much for the panel that you organized, and it was a really very, very interesting experience that Mongolian Statistical Office and parliamentary representative shared with us. I had a question regarding the SDGs. Do you have the close collaboration between the Statistical Office and parliamentary people about the SDGs? The first. And the second, you mentioned the bulletin that you prepared for the official statistics. Do you prepare for the parliamentary people in the simple way, let's say, the bulletin, as you know that they are not statisticians and they do not understand really very well the statistics, and maybe for them it's necessary to prepare the methodology and the data in more simple way than just to be understandable for them. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a great question. I mean, talking about the linkage to the SDGs, first of all, and then also about how we translate data and statistics into a language that's understandable for everyone. Please go ahead.
Okay. For SDG monitoring, actually we have SDG Sustainable Development Subcommittee working under the Economic Standing Committee. So this subcommittee actually is headed by one of the members of the Economic Standing Committee. So this subcommittee oversees the collaboration between the Statistical Office, the policy organizations such as Economic Ministry, Ministry of Finance, Central Bank, and other ministries, and as well as the international organizations to pooling of resources and prioritizing the resources for achieving the SDG targets that we have at the moment. And I think Her Excellency Undram would add more on that. And secondly, as for the bulletin provided for the members of the Parliament, we've been changing the template quite a lot. Initially, we were providing more like tables and graphics, but soon we found out that some of the members of the Parliament who has background in the other sectors like law and not with quite familiar with the data, so we started to make it more comprehensive. We have like 2 pages of text explaining the major changes in the certain indicators, and try to explain it in a text by in a simple text, and then we can ask them to refer to the attached graphics and tables, so that if they are willing, that they can see the details more about. So, and sometimes through these channels I mentioned, the Telegram and Viber channels, some of the members of Parliament can ask to have an appointment with our officers. So we go there and try to explain the, underlying the statistics to them. So I think it's quite a trial and error, task that we have done. And so far, I think we've come with, what I think is that the final template we have prepared is good for everyone so far. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That I didn't introduce. I'm Elsa Dule, Chief Statistician for the National Statistical Office of Albania. And last year, we have started this kind of the collaboration and cooperation with the parliamentary people. And it's a really very interesting that you share this kind of experience with us. Thank you so much. That it's really very important. Thank you.
Can I just add a little bit on the second part? The National Statistics Office, they provide us with very simple infographics every week. They even send it to our, Viber chat group. And then from that, you can get information about inflation, and the prices of basket goods, prices of stock, etc. So all the timely information that we would need to make decisions on our, weekly committees.
Fantastic. I love that aspect of easily digestible content that can be shared, visual content. So I would love to take more questions, but I mean, I'm conscious of the time, and of course, I want to give due time to. Oh, sorry, we have one more question from our colleague at the front. Please go ahead.
Yeah, just very quickly, I want to ask the DGs. So, if a parliamentarian comes to you, said like my constituencies or my voters are this niche group of people that are not reflected in your surveys, in your data. What kind of things the National Statistical Offices can do? Because I know both Mongolia and Rwanda, you have many like diverse group of people and with special needs. Thank you.
That's a great question. Thank you. So, yes, exactly. How do you meet the needs of very specific target groups within your constituency?
Actually, what members of the parliament is more interested is that, for example, we have a member of parliament elected from the, let's say, central province. So that member would like to see what's the poverty rate, employment rate in this region, and then age groups and etc. But so far we haven't received any comment about the sample size or the quality of the survey we conduct from these areas. Normally, what we have done in our statistical information system is we have this Tableau sheet where MPs or anyone could select the region to see the major indicators like socioeconomic indicators. So, but I should mention that by law we have to serve everyone equally. You cannot provide confidential information to the members of the parliament. We have the information we provide to the parliament and provide to the individuals or individual citizens has to be equal in terms of the confidentiality, desegregation. Yeah.
I think the key to that is that our National Statistical Office is independent office. And numbers don't lie. They can give us bad numbers or good numbers, but because they're independent, it's all true. So not many parliamentarians, they question the data that much. Yeah.
Thank you. Both very good points. Maybe Hugo, I don't know if you have a quick reaction on this question as well? Sorry, Hugo, we're just unmuting you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Could you just quickly repeat the question again? Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. So the question is about how you deal with very specific requests for constituents that may represent, a minority group or a very specific target group from within your constituency, how would you then communicate that to Parliament and provide the data that is requested from that constituency?
I suppose it would be dependent on the request and if the data is available. But I think in terms of sort of long-term moving forward, if it was a vulnerable group that there was a demand for that information, then it would be, if you communicated that to the National Statistics Office, it would be up to the National Statistics Office to engage and to decide whether to add questions or modules within our next data collection activity to help gather information on the group in question.
Great, thanks so much, Hugo. So now we really are out of time. I do want to give Yusuf due time to give his closing remarks, but thanks very much to all the panelists.
Yes, thank you very much, Sasha and Paris 21 for organizing this very good discussion. I think this is one of the most important discussions that can take place. Statisticians, we've been struggling to connect, especially to connect with government, to connect with funders, to connect with everything. And I think if there is one breakthrough that is needed in a country, is to connect with the Parliament. I want to thank the panelists, very insightful ideas and insights into the discussions that have just taken place. Parliaments are very important for statistics. Parliaments have three roles through which, if we connect, we can succeed in statistics. The first role is Parliament. Parliaments are very important users of statistics, especially in formulating laws. Laws are supposed to be based on evidence, and if we can create the demand from parliaments to ask for evidence so that they can enact, they can pass laws and so on and so forth, that would help us so much as statisticians, just as it would help the parliamentarians to do their job properly. Two, parliaments have a mandate to approve budgets, national budgets, in all sectors. What we've been seeing is that parliaments have been allocating resources to everything minus statistics, which has been a very big problem. So if we can connect with parliaments to make sure that when the Minister of Finance is coming to the parliament to ask for money to do so many things, because the parliamentarians need statistics, they make sure that the ministries of finance allocate money for statistics. That would be a very big breakthrough in all of our countries in terms of statistics. And third is through their oversight of government, parliaments can create a very good conducive environment for statistics to thrive in a country. So these are very important issues, and these are very important roles for the parliaments. And parliaments should champion these roles to make sure that statistics thrive, because statistics are very important tools for democracy, for development, for transparency, for everything. And finally, we as statisticians, we have to make sure that we connect with the parliament. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thanks, Yusuf, for summing up the major discussions so nicely and pointing out, those key things that have to be done on all sides for us to succeed. So on behalf of all of us, I would like to extend a huge thanks to our panelists and speakers who joined online and in person, and of course to all of you for joining this session as well. So I wish you all the best for the rest of the event, and have a nice day.